Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we will read a story about a man who found out of his wife's affair after the police told him he was a suspect of hurting her lover. This is a two-part story, so be sure to like and subscribe for part 2. Let us begin. I'm completely lost because I just found out that my wife, 46 female with 12 years together, has been having an affair. And it was the police who called me in for questioning involving the assault of her lover. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I don't know if this is the right sub or if I should even be posting this, but my mind is all over the place and I'm here to ask for some direction. I've been married to my wife for 12 years. We have an amazing 11-year-old son. Until last night, I thought we had a good marriage. I thought I was always really good to her. We have no money problems, no intimacy issues, and I've never taken her for granted. Honestly, I wake up every morning and thank God she is my wife. Now, I don't know what to think. I got a call from my local police department as I was getting off work yesterday. They asked if I could come to the police station as soon as possible. I panicked. I asked if something had happened to my wife or son. But they said not to worry, just get to the station as soon as possible. When I got there, they put me in a room with a table and some chairs. They asked me my name, which I gave. Then they started asking all these questions about a guy my wife works with. I haven't seen or spoken to this guy literally since last December at my wife's Christmas party. The two officers kept asking me things like, "How long have you known? And how did you find out?" The only answer I could give was, "What are you talking about?" After about an hour of this, I just stopped answering their questions and kept asking where my son and wife were, and if they were safe. We just kept going around in circles until after about 2 hours on and off, because they would periodically leave the room for 15 to 20 minutes, then come back and start it all over again like some cheap cop show. The last time they came in, the cop handed me a tablet and showed me a video of my wife and the guy from work having sex. I don't remember much right after that. I just remember screaming, "What the F is this?" over and over again. I had a full-blown panic attack right there in the middle of the police station. The police had a paramedic check me out, and he said my blood pressure was something like 170 over 110. He wanted me to go to the hospital, but I refused and said I needed to find my wife and my son. After I calmed down, the officers explained that the guy in the video had been having an affair with my wife and apparently several other women. He had been found that morning in his driveway, beaten, violated, and severely burnt. He was still alive, but in critical condition, and they didn't know if he would make it. His wife had given them permission to go through his phone and computer, and that's where they found the video of my wife. They asked me where I was that morning, and I told them the gym, then work, about 10 minutes from my gym. At that point, they said I could go, but that I might not want to stay at my house because they didn't know if his affair with my wife could be why he was attacked. They also said my wife wasn't the only person he was having an affair with. That's when I rushed home. My son was staying with our neighbors, so I got him and went home. We packed some clothes and his laptop for school. I grabbed my gun and we headed to my parents' house, 45 minutes away. I still haven't heard from my wife. Her phone is going straight to voicemail. I've called the officer who gave me his card, and he said she is at the hospital with the guy she's been cheating with. I'm sitting here in bed with my son on one side and my .38 caliber on the other. I don't even know where to start. Anything would be helpful right now. Any advice or ideas? I am in a fog. I just got off the phone with my in-laws. Apparently, my wife just checked herself into the psych ward. Also, my uncle passed away just this year before I married. He made me get an airtight prenup. Now that infidelity can be proven, she gets nothing. not even the equity in our house. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think she takes on 80% of marital debt now too. The prenup's adultery clause was brutal. My uncle told me after we both signed the papers, "Now you won't be tempted to cheat." I guess he was wrong, but God bless him, he saved my ass here. I wish from the bottom of my heart it was fake. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Apparently, due to the nature of the attack, a lot of information was withheld. Even our local news outlets only reported it as an assault, and it was nothing more than a blurb on our nightly news. I found out from my lawyer that police can literally do or say anything they want, especially if you aren't under arrest. Short of direct threats of harm, that includes lying directly to your face, which they did. It turns out my wife wasn't at the hospital with her lover when I contacted the detective. She had been admitted to that hospital's psychiatric facility much earlier in the day while he was still in surgery. I don't know why they would lie about that, but they did. After I woke up that afternoon, I contacted my uncle's law partner, who is a family friend. He actually came to my parents' house and sat down with me to go over my options. His entire law firm is now representing me, both in the divorce and criminal defense. That same day, he got me an emergency custody order and a protective order against my wife for me, my son, and my parents. Our court date is in 60 days. The police served her the next day as she was leaving the psych hospital. According to her brother, who is a close personal friend of mine, she did not take it well. She is staying with her parents for the time being. I still haven't talked to her, and she hasn't made any attempts to speak to me either. Whether that's due to shame, indifference, or the order of protection, I don't know, but I'm glad of it all the same. My wife is not the person I thought she was, and I'm ashamed of myself for not seeing it sooner. I had to tell my son something, so I decided to tell him the truth. Age appropriate. Literally, the first words out of his mouth were, "Please don't let Mummy take me away." I asked him why he would say that, and from what he tells me, my wife has been treating him very badly when I wasn't around and told him if he told me, she would take him away, and my son would never see me again. She has been emotionally torturing our son, and I was too blind to see it. That wrecked me more than the video, to be honest. I told the lawyer about what my son said, and he used my son's statement and her mental state and commitment to get emergency custody. I have contacted his school for therapy resources, and he will start therapy after the first of the year. I feel like the worst father to ever walk the face of the earth at this point. As for our families, her parents contacted me Tuesday and asked to come to see us. I was still at my parents' at the time, and I told them they could come, but she was not allowed anywhere near us. They agreed. They were so apologetic, and her poor mother didn't stop crying the entire time she was with us. Her father was heartbroken and kept referring to my wife as that girl. They both said they felt like something was going on with her, and they did not raise her to be this way. We hugged and cried before they left, and I told them they will always be a part of our lives, no matter what happens with the divorce. After what my son told me, their visit was the hardest part of our whole ordeal. That's the end of part 1 of this story. Leave your comments in the comment sections to tell us how you feel about this story so far. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we will continue our story of the man who found out of his wife's affair after the police told him he was a suspect of hurting her lover. If you haven't seen part 1 of this story, I recommend you to watch it to understand the story better. Let us continue. My lawyers have been incredibly helpful through all of this. They uncovered that the man my wife was having an affair with has a significant criminal history. One of the lawyers told me that when they tried to print his arrest records, the printer was running for a full 5 minutes without stopping. From what they've gathered, he is currently on parole due to past drug charges and has previously been involved with gangs. He is still in critical condition and may not survive, but he is alive for now. The firm also hired an investigator who reached out to my wife's co-worker, the one who drove her to the hospital. The co-worker revealed that my wife's affair was widely known in the office. My lawyers suspect this is how the police were able to identify me and my wife in the video. There are multiple photos from last year's Christmas party at my wife's workplace, and we are in quite a few of them. So this is where I stand in all of this. I feel numb, lost, and heartbroken. I have no idea how long this numbness will last, but it feels like I'm watching everything unfold, as if it were happening to someone else. From the way I'm speaking, it sounds like I'm still in denial about what's happened, but let's move on to the update. My son is doing much better. He began therapy the first week of January, and we've already seen a noticeable difference. I asked him if he felt comfortable with me speaking to his therapist, and he said yes. We've had several discussions, and according to the therapist, my soon-to-be ex-wife emotionally and verbally abused our son when they were alone. She would demand that he be quiet and not bother her at all while she was home. She would leave him alone for long hours, even overnight when I was away. She threatened him, telling him he'd be taken away from me and never see me again if he told anyone. The therapist said this has left him feeling powerless and dependent, when at his age he should be learning independence and self-reliance. To help him gain confidence and skills for safety, I bought him his own phone and helped him memorize important phone numbers and addresses. I've also been teaching him how to read street signs, identify addresses on buildings, and ask strangers for help if he feels unsafe. Although he's a bit shy, I can see how much more confident he's becoming, and that's been a relief. If anyone has suggestions for helping him build self-reliance, I'd really appreciate it. His well-being is my #1 priority right now. As for me, I'm doing about as well as can be expected. I started therapy around the same time as my son, and while I don't speak to my therapist as often as he does, it's been helpful to talk through everything that's happened. The numbness has faded, replaced by anger. It's a burning feeling inside when I think about my soon-to-be ex-wife and what she put our family through. Oddly enough, though I hate feeling this angry, it's much easier to handle than the numbness. My therapist says this is part of the grieving process, and it's not about how we feel, but about how we channel those emotions. As for the legal situation, I'm in uncharted territory. I was awarded temporary full custody and child support, something I didn't initially want. But my lawyer strongly advised we ask for it, along with a continued order of protection for me and my son. At a court hearing, the judge asked if we would allow supervised visitation, but my son refused. My lawyer brought him along, and the judge agreed to speak to him privately. After their discussion, the judge granted the temporary orders and ordered therapy and psychological evaluation for my son. The therapist working with him is already connected to the court system, which could be a good sign for the custody situation, though I'm still terrified she might get some form of custody after all she's put him through. Regarding the affair partner, he's still in the hospital, and I haven't heard anything new from the police since my initial interview. As for my soon-to-be ex-wife, I hadn't seen her since the day I was questioned until last Thursday. She has tried calling me a few times, but I've ignored them, even hanging up when she called from a different number. I don't want to hear from her. Her lawyer requested a preliminary hearing for mediation, and she was served the second week of January. At the mediation, she looked unrecognizable. She used to be an attractive and athletic woman, but now she looks frail and sickly, having lost a lot of weight. She didn't look at me once, just sat with her face down for most of the meeting. Everything she asked for in the mediation was ridiculous. She wanted visitation during the divorce and joint custody afterward. She even asked for us to live together until the divorce is finalized. I couldn't believe it. After everything that's happened, she actually wanted us to live in the same house. It was so insulting. I could barely contain myself. The best part came when we discussed how to handle the division of assets. My lawyer asked, "What division of assets? Did you read the prenup?" Her lawyer had no idea about the prenup, and I could see the shock on his face. My late uncle, who was also the founding partner of the law firm I use, drafted that prenup and even arranged for her to have a lawyer review it before we married. According to my lawyer, the prenup is airtight. We've kept finances completely separate, just like my uncle instructed. The house we live in was a gift from my uncle, and all the utilities and insurance are in my name. We've never co-signed for any debt, and we only have one shared savings account for household expenses, which had about $8,000 in it, but is now down to less than $300 after my wife drained most of it. The prenup states that all marital assets and debts are to be split 50-50ths, with each party keeping their own personal debt and intangible assets. If adultery is proven, the offending party forfeits the right to spousal support. The prenup is so well crafted that breaking it would be nearly impossible, according to my lawyer. The last thing her lawyer asked for left me shaken. He requested that we delay the mediation for 6 months so my wife could go into inpatient rehabilitation for substance abuse. I hadn't even considered this, but my lawyer said we'd discuss it and get back to them with our decision. Before we left, my soon-to-be ex spoke up for the first time since everything happened and handed me a letter. My lawyer had warned me that it could be manipulative, but I decided to read it. I wish I hadn't. It was full of those cliched cheater apologies. "I love you. I love our family. I know I mistreated our son, and I want to make things right." She confessed that after a major surgery 2 years ago, she became addicted to pain medication. She started buying them from her affair partner and eventually started sleeping with him to get more pills. She said she hid it from me because she knew I would stop her, and she felt she couldn't live without the pills. She claimed the affair partner meant nothing to her, that he was just a way to get her fix, and she hates herself for everything she's done. She asked me to give her time to prove she wants to get better for the family, but let me be clear, I will never reconcile with her. The marriage ended the moment she cheated and abused our son. I feel like a fool for not realizing what was happening. So how do I move forward from here? Am I justified in feeling betrayed, or should I feel some compassion for her struggles? I know I can't risk my son's well-being for her anymore. I'm moving forward with the divorce, but I might reach out to her treatment facility to see if I can offer any support, though only from a distance. My son will always come first. Finally, my lawyer was thrilled when I showed him the letter. It's a clear admission of addiction, which all but guarantees me full custody of our son. And that's the end of this story. Do you want to say to the writer, what would you do if you were him? Let me know in your comments.